Destiny 2, a game that just last year peaked at 300,000 active Steam players, but as of now is at 36,000. A drop of almost 90% a year later. So what went wrong, and is this really the beginning of the end of Destiny 2? Let's find out. Far from being problem-free, the game has had issues all the way back with its very first expansion. Curse of Osiris caused so much uproar, many players vowed to never return and declared the game was dead, a trend many Destiny players have never repeated before. Mind you, this was only a few months after the game was released. The expansion honestly felt like it was made in someone's basement whose PC was still using Windows XP. The areas were huge, vast, empty areas, a campaign that made you feel like a 5-year-old wrote it, full offense to 5-year-olds, and a mini raid. They tried to sell us half a raid. Here's half a Big Mac. Can we please get the same price you pay normally? Sure, after you eat this knuckle sandwich. And for a while the game was struggling to grow until the Forsaken expansion came along and brought everyone back. It was an overall celebrated expansion, and then Bungie immediately shat the bed. Or soiled their pants. Whichever one you prefer. Turns out the game was the one that was truly Forsaken. Aha! In all seriousness though, this was just Bungie being a repeat offender of making great content, then immediately followed by one that was not so great. Sprinkle in a few retarded decisions, rinse and repeat, and the game is pretty much where it is today. Dead. Or at the very least, not doing so well. The state of the game really boils down to 3 simple concepts. Ambition, a rudderless ship, and the end of the world. I'm going with a seafaring theme here. Yar. Let's start with ambition. From the very beginning, the game has already had its resources stretched fairly thin, and it's due to the ambitious concept of multiple lanes of gameplay, which consists of PvE, PvP, and the endgame. But within these lanes, there's also soft player limits. PvE 1 to 3 players, PvP 4 to 6 players, and endgame 6 players. What I mean by soft limit is, can you play the raid, for example, as a solo player? Sure. Is it designed with a single player experience in mind, and would you have a great time? Regrettably, no. Because the raids, which are normally the pinnacle of the best weapon, the best gaming experience, and usually the conclusion of a season story, is not just very difficult, but it requires full cooperation across 6 different players, and each individual knowing what to do. For normal friends, it was hard already. Imagine the problem for a solo player. In this day and age, we can't have fully grown politicians not behave like apes. What makes you think James, age 12, is gonna be able to complete the Vault of Glass raid with Bob, the local Discord mod, and his group of online buddies? And a random that sounds like his baby is in need of a diaper change and English not even being his second language. Yeah, no, that's not happening. There have been many horror stories about these makeshift raid groups that would scare anyone from the game. I'm sure many of us have had some interesting LFG experiences. And for a long while too, the only way of finding other players was joining the Destiny 2 LFG Discord or using the app. Speaking of which, why the fuck was there an actual app that needed to be separate from the game? There was an actual fucking mobile app for a PC game. Why? Anyways, I digress. And they took only till recently to actually make an inbuilt search function. A search function took 10 years into a game's lifespan. As you can imagine, not only is the experience very difficult to access because of the difficulty, but the specific player count and ape-like solutions really did not make it easy to play, let alone enjoy. Player limit aside, another issue is the having multiple lanes makes balancing across all of them a fucking nightmare, which splits Bungie's focus all over the shop. You'd have a weapon finally be fun in PvE content, but because it was one-shotting players in PvP, Bungie fixes it, and now it's unfun in PvE, but balanced in PvP. And vice versa. Gun bad in PvE, but good in PvP? No worries, we heard you, and we'll do it again. And this was the repetitive cycle that I'm sure put a lot of players off the game. And then there's Gambit. We all joke about PvP not getting maps for like ever, but I'm pretty sure Bungie actually forgot that Gambit was a game mode in the game. Bro has been under the water for a while now. I also want to touch on the point that the DLCs aren't free. They've only been temporarily free. So the concept of having many lanes of gameplay that in itself isn't that accessible and slap expansions on top of that makes it even more difficult for new players to come on board with these ever-ending requirements. But those that are already on board aren't even supported properly. Yeah, this might be the reason why Destiny is where it is at the moment. Let's talk about the rudderless ship. Bungie as a game studio over the years seems to be either incapable or uninterested in going anywhere in a straight line in regards to their decision making. It makes it out like Destiny is not just lost in the sauce, but has also misplaced the ladle, pot and the kitchen. Can't be rip in spaghetti, never forgetty if there's no sauce! The stupid decisions throughout the game's life was plentiful. Let's start with sunsetting. For the sake of game size and power creep, or in other words, we can't balance this game, Bungie decided not to just take the guns away, but old raids, planets, and full campaign. But funnily enough, the old guns were still usable. So I think that mutes the game size argument. But then they also decided to bring some of them back slowly to pull on nostalgia. I mean, it worked. I don't know, I just found this decision to be very flip-floppy and ultimately was kinda pointless because they brought back the planets too. So really it was, we want you to pay for the content that you already paid for. Again, nice.
Thank you so much.
Now we can't forget the two things that was such a hard stance on, let's forget the current player base, we want new players. Weapon crafting and the new builds. Now weapon crafting at first was actually pretty cool. Cause, hate those pesky raid weapons? Introducing weapon crafting! Just play the game and make whatever role you want! Wow! I'm OP now! However, I actually think this did a lot more harm than good for Destiny 2 as a game. Cause believe it or not, one of the main reasons people play Destiny or even MMORPGs is the fact that it taps into the degeneracy of the human mind. In other words, gambling. This of course came in the form as the God Roll, a weapon with almost mythical stats attained only by the most devoted, known to cause instant godhood, and any ladies within a 5-mile radius will drop their panties at the sheer sight of your awesomeness. The last two parts may or may not be true. In all seriousness, the God Roll was a solid reason why a lot of the hardcore players continued to do stuff like the raid. Taking this away and guaranteeing them as long as you just mindlessly grind sort of took away the whole fun of the game. Like, where's the surprise? It basically became a mundane task. Like, how are you meant to flex a God Roll if everybody has it? And it wasn't even hard to get. I don't feel special anymore. Let's be real now, a lot of you out there really enjoyed being better than everybody. And whilst hypothetically it could take you an infinite amount of time if your RNG is bad enough, honestly part of the fun was the chance of you getting it. I mean, if everybody just gets it in like the third try, let me ask you, would you feel good? I don't think so. The builds were also distilled down to be more easily digestible. Basically, it lost all its personality and we were left with a rock. As we went from a fairly complex system that had people every week popping up on YouTube with some crazy insane builds that somehow was effective, to then everyone being the same build with like the most minimal differences. In the same vein as weapon building, the simplified builds took away the player's creativity and kind of made it not very unique or special anymore. It very much became an afterthought for a lot of the players. Like, why would you invest so much time if it's not really gonna matter or make any difference in the grand scheme of things? Whilst well intended, this decision, like weapon crafting, kind of put Destiny 2 where it is right now. You lost the uniqueness, the fun of chance, but hey, they definitely got some new players that clearly aren't around anymore, cause I can't see them, now do I? But what was definitely not well intended was the Destiny 2 app. This app has to be one of the most stupidest things to ever exist in gaming history. There's unfortunate things like the Wii U, but creating a problem yourself and creating a solution that isn't even good at solving said problem you made has to take the cake. In fact, the cake got taken with the fucking baker still cooking it in the oven. You could almost say the app was undercooked. Or was I meant to say underbaked? Fuck. Now I'm sure it's great for communicating with your clan, but removing simple aspects like the Guardian Finder and the ability to pull items from an in-game vault from the actual game, and then shoving it into the app, honestly felt like they had no reason for an app, but wanted an app. So let's force everyone onto it. I don't know if this was a cool trend at the time or not, but I'll tell you something, it didn't make me feel like a real Guardian, Bungie. I wasn't pulling out my phone to help defeat the final encounter at the fucking grocery store. I can guarantee you, 9 out of 10 times the app was used while playing the game, just sitting right on the desk. So at this rate, just put it in the game. I genuinely wonder how much money and resources they wasted on this app. Like, if you really wanted to make it useful, I don't know, maybe let people order pizza off it? Bungie really has a track record of making fun things not fun and convenient things inconvenient. Game developing 101. Truly ingenious. Let me ask you guys something. When was the last time you recall a game company being controversial? Maybe it was CD Projekt Red and the abysmal state Cyberpunk was released in. Maybe Ubisoft and the controversy surrounding that Japanese Assassin's Creed game. Bungie for some reason took this as a personal challenge to be one of the most problematic game studios I have ever seen. I mean, the fact that I can search Bungie controversy and the list is almost never ending, and this is just for 2024 by the way. You got toxic work environments, money from employees, jump pack waiting, sunsetting, layoffs, and more layoffs. I've never seen a game company mess up more than Bungie, and at the same time be in the limelight more than their actual fucking game. My favorite part is when Marathon was announced and rumors started circulating about a skeleton staff maintaining Destiny 2 whilst they worked on Marathon. Call me crazy, but if you take a year of concept work, then this timeline seems to make sense now, doesn't it? How does a company of 500 produce such little content? I mean 300. Too soon? It's just baffling. I cannot understand how this company has gone on as long as it has. If it wasn't obvious already, all of this is not going to be great for player morale. No one wants to hear that the people who made their games are sexually harassing each other. And why do we need to know the CEO of said company flexes his $2.3 million car collection and then fires everybody? Seriously, fix your shit, Bungie. This now leads me to the last part, the end of the world. And really this is simply that the game has reached its natural conclusion. The ultimate big boss just went down. The witness just witnessed me assert dominance. The pinnacle of both games, the culmination of a decade worth of lore, was just defeated. Where do we go from here? Bungie really doesn't have much option here. Either they rewrite everything and go, actually there was a real big boss who was actually the real villain all this time. You know, really raising the stakes, which I suspect won't go down well because ass pools usually aren't welcome with open hands. Or they can expand on the lore that they already built and just do random side quests to tie things up. But even that will eventually come to a natural conclusion. It's quite tough to see where they actually go, with years of solid world building just reaching its conclusion. The stakes and level of excitement will never be this high again. Would it take a miracle to see Destiny 2 rise out of the ashes? No, not really. They could just, I don't know, focus more on making the game fun and giving more content rather than being so focused on the lore. But even that, I'm a bit doubtful. Maybe we have to wait to Destiny 3? Alternative timeline? Maybe it's time for a new game. Not everything needs to go on forever. And let's not forget the fact that there's actually no content. Like with all the changes over the years to RNG and sunsetting, really what's the point of playing? There's nothing worth playing for. Yeah, there's always the new season exotic and the next reskin of a weapon, but some of the game ultimately just feels really mundane with or without friends. Like it's either the Nightfalls or the raids, and even then, it really feels like there's nothing to do. Gambit has been abandoned, PvP takes years for new maps, and even with the large pool, most of them aren't even in circulation. And it took them years to finally release new enemies that, to be honest, they just felt like any other faction. Bungie has large open planets that really at times players just use as a highway to get to point A and point B. Like it's kind of crazy they have so much world building and large planets that are somewhat empty and barren. There's just nothing to do, and what's left to do isn't even that fun. I think Mercury actually represents where Destiny 2 is at the moment. After so many years, it's just empty and dry. Well, may as well be dead. Or like the Titanic, since I am doing a seafaring theme here. Grr, I'm sinking.
You sunk my battleship.
Alright fellas, hope you guys enjoyed that video. Please leave a like, I'm desperate, and share it with a relative that would enjoy this piece of film. In all seriousness guys, hope you guys are all doing well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye bye.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of down with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead.